What is going on, guys? Gaston right here, and today we're going to be talking about Sony potentially releasing very soon a new dedicated vlogging camera that uses this tiny little battery. And remember, last week we actually uploaded a video talking about a new camera registered in Asia using this tiny battery. Well, guess what? We were thinking about the RX100 Mark VIII, and while we think this is a camera that is also going to be announced very soon, probably Sony is going to launch this new camera first. And the camera is called the ZV1. Now, for the record, we've learned about all these leaks and rumors through Sony Alpha Rumors, but at the same time, we have been reporting in the past Sony creating some sort of tiny camera that looks like RX100 and a camera that's going to be released very soon. So we're going to talk about that one. Now, what do we know so far about this vlogging camera? Well, the first thing we know is that the camera is going to be announced in May 26th. We know. The rumor says that it's going to be announced May 26th. While I think that Sony is actually going to release or announce something more in June, but let's take it as it comes from the rumor, May 26th. So one of the things that we know is because this camera is going to be a camera for vlogging, it needs to have the latest and greatest autofocus performance, and we're gonna see probably top of the line autofocus performance from the A9 and the A7R4. So here it's called the Existing Real-Time Autofocus and Eye Autofocus, and like I mentioned before, this is gonna work great in video and photo. Now, we are talking about vlogging camera, so most likely we're gonna see more video features than photography feature in this camera. Now, the next thing that really catches my attention, and I wanna talk to you guys, drop your comments down below, let me know what you think about this one. It says, improved microphone. Now, when it talks about improved microphones, you know, one of the things that I don't like about the RX100 Mark VII is the onboard microphone. The microphone, I believe, is actually located at the top, and that quality is never good. You always get echo, you always, sound like you're far away. So improved microphone. So that means that probably Sony has redesigned and repositioned the microphone, perhaps in the front of the camera. So when you're talking, you can actually get the sound directly to the microphone. Or maybe this camera is gonna have a specific microphone that was designed for this camera as an accessory. And we've seen something like that in the GoPro, one of the latest GoPro. What is the latest GoPro? The GoPro 8? The 8 that had the cage and the little mic. So maybe we're gonna see something like that in this camera. Now, one of the things that we know for sure is that we're gonna get the option of putting our own microphone. So this camera is gonna have microphone input. Now, the other thing that we know is that this camera is going to have the VARIANGLE LCD. And of course, it's gonna be a camera for vlogging, so we're gonna have to have some sort of flip-out screen to see ourselves. And like we mentioned before, we believe that this camera is going to be much like the RX100, so chances are that the screen is gonna flip up. I'd much rather to the side so I can actually position a microphone or a light at the top, but when you actually Google VARIANGLE LCD, what you see is actually flip-out screen. So maybe for the first time, Sony, it is going to re-engineer this screen to really flip from the side rather from the top, because it's a vlogging camera, right? They're talking about their specific vlogging camera. So, it would be nice to really, it actually would make sense to really have that shoe mount, free for things like an additional microphone or a light, like I mentioned before. So what do you guys think about that? Do you think that they're gonna put the same screen? Drop your comments down below, let me know what you think. Now, another thing that we've been reporting in our last video is that Sony most likely is going to release a camera with a much wider lens. Now remember, the RX100 Mark VII is a camera that actually has a 24 to 200 millimeters, It's really 200 millimeter, but what happened is 2.8 to 5, it's 2.8 to 4.5 is the aperture. So we're losing a lot of light, and the moment you start zooming in, you're in the 3.5, and very soon you're in the 4.5 f-stop of aperture. So this camera, it is going to have a 24 to 70 millimeter f1.8 to f2.8. Now, that's wide, 24 is wide, but I think for a vlogging camera, 24 is not wide enough. And again, we got this from Sony Alpha Rumor, but we also reported in our last video that Sony, and this we learned it from some of the European sites, saying that Sony may release a camera with a 16 to 50 millimeter f1.4. Okay, so that would be actually incredible to have such a wide angle lens in a tiny camera like the RX100. Now remember, this one, Sony Alpha Rumor says that it's going to be a 24 to 70, you know, from their leaks and their sources. I believe if a camera is going to be specific for vlogging, it's going to have a much wider focal length. Maybe I'm wrong, but let's see. Now, the other thing that we're gonna see for the very first time that we've never seen before is what Sony calls the one-touch bokeh feature. So, one-touch bokeh feature. So we've seen this in something similar in smartphones. We also have seen this in other cameras out there where electronically the camera detects the subject and then blurs the background. And a lot of the times it doesn't work that well. So maybe this is what it is, or maybe it's another feature that enables, I don't know, better depth of field. Maybe Sony figured something out. But definitely here is talking about subject separation, meaning the vlogger and the background. So it's gonna happen one touch. Now, the other thing that we're gonna have in this camera is the auto object detect. And what we think that this means is probably it's going to be some of Sony's autofocus technology and face recognition to recognize the different objects. You know, you're vlogging on the street and there's a car passing by, you know, the camera is gonna ensure that it's gonna lock on you and not on the car or a tree or something like that. So we've seen this in some of the cameras, you know, we've seen this also in drones and stuff like that. So for the first time, we're gonna have these two features in a Sony camera, the one-touch bokeh feature and the auto object detect. So we'll see how it works, you know. Now, there are a lot of things that we don't know about this camera. Number one, we don't know the size, and we are assuming that it's gonna look like the RX100, so chances are that it's gonna be pocketable, portable, small. The other thing that we don't know is what type of sensor this camera is going to use. And I think that this camera is going to use the 1-inch sensor. Why? Because it has been proven to actually work. You know, it can do 4K, and with the Mark 7, the RX100 Mark 7, you can film 4K almost until the battery runs out. I filmed over an hour plugged via USB before the heating warning comes up, and you can actually bypass it. So are we going to have 4K in this camera, or is going to be more HD? Maybe, you know. A lot of vloggers are uploading their content in full HD, and also this camera, chances are that it's gonna have one card slot. So, I mean, I don't know, probably we're gonna have 4K up to 30p, and definitely we're gonna have the HD, full HD option right here. So I'm torn about that one, because if the camera is going to be a vlogging camera, should actually be able to film 4K, but at the same time, the RX100 Mark 7 can do it, but you have to bypass the heating warning, and you always are afraid that the camera is gonna shut off on you, you know, in the middle of the video. Now, what they have actually figured out in this one, I don't know, but indeed, it is a camera that has been redesigned and re-engineered just to serve vloggers out there, so I'm pretty excited to know what type of video format we're gonna have here. Now, the other thing that we need to talk about is IBIS. Obviously, if this is going to be a vlogging camera, you are gonna need IBIS, you know, because vlogging with shaky footage, nobody enjoys watching that, you know. So one of the things that I think we're gonna see here for the very first time is an image stabilization much more similar to a GoPro than actually a sensor image stabilization. So this is the reason why I mentioned before that I think the lens is gonna be even wider than 24, because usually when you stabilize footage, you have to crop. And if you are at 24 and you crop even more, you're kind of like gonna be like this, you know, right in front of the lens. So a lot of vloggers, you know, love to move around, and the lucky people that can actually travel to vlog. But, you know, they travel around, they're in hotels and stuff like that. And, you know, most of the time to actually publish your content, you have to be at the hotel, you know, you have to be by your computer and being able to publish content. Now, one of the things that I think we're gonna see here for a fact, and I bet you $10 on this, that we are gonna see something similar as Canon has done with the M6 is the camera, the last one that has that? Yeah. So the M6, I think it's the M6, the one that has YouTube capability. So this camera, for the first time for Sony, it is going to have direct streaming capabilities, and perhaps you're gonna be able to shoot while streaming on YouTube. Maybe also it's gonna have, you know, Facebook live capabilities. Remember, drones can do that this day. Why not a camera? So it would actually make really sense to connect Wi-Fi to your phone and actually, you know, tether the Wi-Fi to the camera, and that way actually transmit or stream directly from the camera. So I'm almost 95% sure that that capability is going to be coming to this camera. Now, how many platforms you're going to be able to blog? I don't know. What do you think? Drop your comments down below. Let me know. Let me know if you actually would use that feature. What else? So dynamic range. One of the things that the RX100 Mark VII is good is has an okay dynamic range, but a lot of the time you get the image blown out. I think that a camera that's dedicated for vloggers, you know, where you really don't pay attention to settings, you basically trust the camera to do all the adjustment. This camera is going to have some digital enhancement of the dynamic range, much more what we see on an iPhone. You know, the iPhone has incredible dynamic range. So we're probably gonna see some of that technology from mobile devices and even drones coming to this little camera. Remember, vloggers, you could be in 1 second you're inside a place with no light, the next second you're actually outside in broad daylight. So the camera is gonna have to be able to handle that, and I'm sure Sony has to incorporate some new feature to actually take care of this really quick without, you know, ruining the footage. Card slot. You know, definitely this one is going to have a UHS 2 SD card. We're not going to see dual card slot. It would be nice to have actually dual card slot on a vlogging camera. That would be actually really powerful, but it would make the camera probably larger, and, you know, no one likes large cameras. I love them actually. Anyway, so in terms of connectivity, we are going to have the upgraded technologies for Wi-Fi. And again, if this camera is going to be able to broadcast, chances are that you are going to be able to broadcast with the latest technology from Wi-Fi and Bluetooth, you know, to allow you to transfer data to your phone or mobile devices or computer, you know, really, really fast. Now, one thing that we're gonna see in this type of cameras, and remember, the RX100 has the micro USB charge port, which I completely disliked those ports in 2020. This camera is going to have USB-C, and USB-C makes a lot of sense because one, it's going to allow you to charge the camera while you're using the camera, but also you can use that port actually to output data to the computer, and you can also use that port most likely to connect headphones if you want to have someone monitoring your audio. And these are some of the specs that we actually speculated for the RX100 Mark VIII. Now, I don't think that they're ditching the Mark VIII. I think that chances are that we may see both cameras coming up. And remember, in our last video, we talked about Sony potentially releasing two cameras. One that it was going to have the 24 to 200 millimeter, which is just like the Mark VII RX. And then we also said that there's going to be another camera that is going to have a much wider. And perhaps this is the camera. Perhaps the ZV1 is the version catering to vloggers with a much wider lens and probably some stripped down features from photography and more video oriented, much more automated type of camera. So what do you think, guys? Are you excited about this camera? I'm personally especially when thinking about a camera that can actually take care of everything else and I can just concentrate on the story. Drop your comments down below and let me know if you're excited about this one. We're gonna have to wait. May 26th is what Sony Alpha Rumor said when this camera may be launching or be announced. So until then, guys, see you later.